The magic school bus lost in the solar system. It was trip day again in Miss Frizzle's class. Everyone was excited. We were going to the planetarium to see a sky show about the solar system. Class, an orbit is the path of a planet or other object around the sun. Arnold's cousin Janet was visiting our class for the day. "I know all of you will be nice to our guest," said the Frizz. We tried to be nice to Janet. We really did. As we got on the school bus, we told her that Miss Frizzle is the weirdest teacher in school, but Janet wasn't interested. She wanted to tell us about herself. As usual, it took a while to get the old bus started, but finally we were on our way. As we were driving, Miss Frizzle told us all about how the Earth spins like a top as it moves in its orbit. It was just a short drive to the planetarium, but Miss Frizzle talked fast. When the Earth spins, we say it rotates. The Earth makes one complete rotation turn every 24 hours. When we got to the planetarium, it was closed for repairs. "Class, this means we'll have to return to school," said the Frizz. We were so disappointed. On the way back, we were waiting at a red light. Something amazing happened. The bus started tilting back, and we heard the roar of rockets. "Oh dear," said Miss Frizzle. "We seem to be blasting off." "Children, we are going through the atmosphere, the layers of air around the Earth." When the roar of the rockets stopped, we looked around. Everything had changed. The bus had turned into a spaceship. We were all dressed in spacesuits, and we were lighter than feathers. We floated above our seats. Far behind in the black sky, we saw the planet Earth getting smaller and smaller. We were traveling in space. We had become astronauts. "Look how small the Earth seems from there." The Frizz said our first stop would be the moon. We got off the bus and looked around. There was no air, no water, no sign of life. All we saw were dust and rock and lots of craters. Miss Frizzle said the craters were formed balloons of years ago when the moon was hit by meteorites. Meteorites are falling chunks of rock and metal. "We are so light on the moon." "That's because the moon has less gravity than Earth." It was fun on the moon. We wanted to play, but Miss Frizzle said it was time to go, so we got on the bus. "We'll start with the sun, the center of the solar system," said the Frizz, and we blasted off. We zoomed toward the sun, the biggest, brightest, and hottest object in the solar system. Jets of super hot gases shot out at us from the surface. Thank goodness Miss Frizzle didn't get too close. "We should never look directly at the sun, children. It can damage your eyes." She steered around to the other side and pulled away. "We'll be seeing all the planets in order, class," explained Frizzle. "Mercury is the first planet, the closest to the sun." Mercury was a dead, sun-baked planet. "This planet is a lot like our moon. There is no water and hardly any air," said the Frizz. "Notice the craters on the surface as we pass by? The sun looks twice as big here as it does from Earth. That's because Mercury is so close." Before long, we felt ourselves being pulled in by the gravity of Venus, the second planet from the sun. Venus was completely covered by a thick layer of yellowish clouds. "We will now explore the surface of Venus," said Miss Frizzle. Below the clouds, Venus was as dry as a desert. The ground was covered with rocks and it was hot. It was 400 degrees centigrade. That's much hotter than an oven baking cookies. There's no life on Venus, class. It is too hot. It is too dry. There's too much acid. Let's leave. The air was so heavy we could feel it pressing down on us. Miss Frizzle said there might be volcanoes around too. We said, let's get out of here. Our next stop is Mars, the red planet, fourth from the sun, announced the Frizz. On our way, we'll be passing through the orbit of Earth, the third planet. The bus lifted off with a roar. As we came close to Mars, we passed its 2 moons, which are called Phobos and Deimos. Compared to our moon, they were tiny and they weren't even round. Looking down, we saw a huge canyon. Miss Frizzle said it was as long as the United States of America. There was a volcano 3 times taller than the tallest volcano on Earth. And all around, there were channels that looked like dried up riverbeds. We landed and started walking around. Suddenly, a huge dust storm blew up. Miss Frizzle said dust storms on Mars can last for months. They may cover the whole planet. We scrambled back on the bus and headed out. Are there any aliens here? I don't see any. Don't be too sure. Mars is the last of what we call the inner planets, Miss Frizzle shouted above the roar of the rockets. We will now be going through the asteroid belt to the outer planets. Thousands of asteroids were spinning all around us all at once. We heard the tinkling of broken glass. One of our tailgates had been hit by an asteroid. Miss Frizzle put the bus on autopilot and went out to take a look. She kept on talking about asteroids over the bus radio. The largest asteroid is only 1/3 the size of our moon. Most asteroids are the size of houses or smaller. Suddenly, there was a snap. Miss Frizzle's tether line had broken. Without warning, the rockets fired up and the bus zoomed away. The autopilot was malfunctioning. On the radio, Miss Frizzle's voice grew fainter and fainter. Then she was gone. We were on our own. We were lost in the solar system. Kids, I'll meet you later. Come in, Miss Frizzle. Do you read me? Most of us were too scared to move, but Janet started searching the bus in the glove compartment. She found Miss Frizzle's lesson book. As she began reading from it, a huge planet came into view. Class, this is Jupiter, Janet read. It's the first of the outer planets and the largest planet in the solar system. We thought the school bus was going to land, but there was no solid ground to land on. Jupiter is a gas giant, a planet made almost entirely of gas. As we left Jupiter, we wondered and worried, would we ever get home? The next sight made us forget our troubles. It was Saturn, a gas planet like Jupiter. It had swirling clouds and lots of moons, but the most incredible thing about Saturn was its rings. It was the most beautiful planet in the solar system. Next was Uranus, a blue-green gas planet with faint gray rings and moons. Some scientists think they might be made of chunks of graphite, the material used in pencils on Earth. We used pencils in class. The bus was going faster and faster, and we couldn't control the autopilot. We swept past stormy Neptune, another blue-green planet, 8 from the sun. All we could think about was finding Miss Frizzle. Neptune is the last of the giant gas planets. We're almost out of gas ourselves. We were going so fast we almost missed seeing the 9th planet, tiny Pluto, and its moon, Charon. We were so far away from the sun that it didn't look big anymore. We just looked like a very bright star. We were leaving the solar system. There's nothing out there but stars. Maybe there's a 10th planet waiting to be discovered. I hope Miss Frizzle is waiting too. Janet flipped rapidly through Miss Frizzle's book. Suddenly, she found something new, the instructions for the autopilot. We punched the asteroid belt on the control panel. Slowly, the bus turned around. It wasn't working. We were going back. When we reached the asteroid belt, there was Miss Frizzle. When Frizzy back at the wheel, the bus headed straight for Earth. We re-entered the atmosphere, landing with a thump, and looked around. Boys and girls, we are arriving on Earth, the third planet from the sun. We were in the school parking lot again. The rockets were gone. The spacesuits were gone. The bus was a wreck. Everything was back to normal. Thank goodness. Hello again, old friend. Here's a special chart of all of the planets that we talked about in this story. In the classroom, we made a terrific chart of the planets and a mobile of the solar system. At last, it was time to go home. It had been a typical day in Miss Frizzle's class. Now we had only one problem. Would anyone ever believe us when we told them about our trip? The end.